It begins with a sound, a faint tapping in the dark, like a fingernail scratching against wood. Most would dismiss it as nothing more than the creaks of an old house. But those who know the story of Thornvale know better. They say it is the echo of something summoned long ago, a voice that never left. Welcome to Darkhaven. Tonight, we explore the tale of the Witchboard Echo, a story of a cursed seance, a voice from beyond, and the price paid when the veil between the living and the dead is torn open. The Witchboard was never meant to be made. Its creator was a craftsman named Elias Crane, a man who specialized in carving furniture and coffins in the late 1800s. He was quiet, skilled, but said to have a fascination with the occult. Villagers whispered that Elias had once courted a woman accused of witchcraft, a woman who was burned at the edge of the forest. After her death, he withdrew from society, working late into the night in his workshop. Some swore they saw candles flickering through his windows and heard chanting that was not his voice. It was in this solitude that he carved the Witchboard, a strange device that resembled the spirit boards beginning to gain popularity at the time. But this was no toy, no parlor trick. He carved it from the wood of the very tree where his beloved had been burned. The letters were etched deep, stained with a mixture of ash and blood. Across its center, a faint crack ran like a scar, and on its underside, strange symbols were carved, runes older than the village itself. The board first appeared in the hands of a group of teenagers in 1923. They had found it in the attic of an abandoned house on the outskirts of Thornvale. Among them was a girl named Anna, who insisted the stories were just myths, that the Witchboard was only wood and nothing more. On a dare, they lit candles in a circle, placed the planchette at its center, and began to ask their questions. At first, the board moved slowly, dragging under their fingers, spelling out nonsense. The teenagers laughed, accusing each other of pushing it. But then the planchette grew hot, and the board began to move on its own. The letters spelled out a single name, Evelyn. None of them knew an Evelyn. But the candles flickered low, and the room grew unbearably cold. One of the boys wanted to stop, but Anna pressed on. "Who are you?" she asked. The planchette spelled out, "Bride." Then it continued, "I was burned." The group grew uneasy. Their laughter died. And then the board spelled one final word. Well, the planchette flew from the board, striking the wall so hard it cracked. The candles went out, and in the silence that followed, they heard it, a woman sobbing, faint at first, then louder, closer, as though she was in the room with them. Terrified, the teenagers fled. But Anna lingered a moment too long, staring at the board. They found her the next morning by the old well on the edge of Thornvale. Her wedding veil, though she had never been married, was wrapped around her face, soaked through. Her body was never recovered. The Witchboard vanished that night. Some say it returned to Elias Crane's workshop, though no one knows for certain. But the stories continued. Over the years, others claimed to encounter the board. It would appear unexpectedly, in the back of an attic, in the cellar of a farmhouse, in an abandoned church. Always the same board, always the same faint crack down its center, and always it carried the same curse. Those who played it would hear the echo. At first, it was a whisper, sometimes their own name, sometimes a child's laughter. But if they continued, the voice would grow stronger, filling the room, until it seemed the very walls trembled. And then the crying would begin. There are accounts of families destroyed by the board. In 1964, a mother and her 2 children vanished from their home, leaving behind only the Witchboard on their dining table. The planchette was still moving when neighbors found it, slowly spelling out the word mine. In 1989, a group of college students recorded themselves using the Witchboard in a dormitory. The tape survives, though it is said to be too disturbing to watch in full. On it, the students laugh nervously as the board spells out strange words. Then, the room darkens. One by one, their laughter turns to screams. The final frames show the planchette spinning wildly, and in the corner of the room, the faint outline of a veiled woman dripping with water. None of the students were ever seen again. The witchboard became a legend, feared and whispered about. Some say it is bound to the spirit of the witch Elias Crane once loved, her soul trapped between worlds, using the board as a vessel. Others claim it is older still, that the runes carved beneath it tied it to something darker than human, a hunger that feeds on the voices of the living. But all agree on one thing: the board cannot be destroyed. Those who have tried, burning it, burying it, shattering it, find it returns, whole again, in some forgotten place, always waiting, always listening. There is one final story, perhaps the most chilling of all. A traveler passing through Thornvale stayed in a roadside inn. That night, he heard tapping in the wardrobe of his room. When he opened it, he found the witchboard inside. Against his better judgment, he placed his hands on the planchette. He asked one question: "What do you want?" The planchette spelled out a single word: Echo. And from that moment, the traveler began to hear her voice everywhere, in the wind, in the rain, even in his own thoughts. He fled Thornvale, but the voice followed him. They say he was found months later, sitting beside a river, rocking back and forth, his hands over his ears, whispering the same words again and again. It echoes. It never stops. It never stops. And so the legend lives on. The witchboard's echo, a cursed relic carved from betrayal and fire, wandering from hand to hand, leaving only silence and ruin in its path. If you ever find yourself in a dark room and hear the faint sound of wood being scratched, do not search for it. Do not place your hands on the board. Do not ask a question, because once the echo begins, it never truly leaves.